I'm getting way more emails from healthcare.gov this year about signing up for American insurance, which I'm not going to do. Maybe I should, though.
Why?
I don't know.
You got a lot of extra money you want to flush down the toilet.
I hate my money. That's not true. I don't have enough money to hate it. Other people have enough money for me to hate it, though. Whole concept.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
This is Heat Death of the Universe, a podcast about the stampeding masses reaching for the brass ring of a Tickle Me Elmo. I'll stomp a child's head in for one, wouldn't you? Today is December 7th. It's a Tuesday. It's 11:39 a.m. It is 2021 year of our Lord, Jen Psaki's free COVID test-orama. We got some news items to talk about.
What's new in the world of the news? Let's find out.
Okay, Julian Assange update, sort of. I mean, yes, it is something.
Is the update things are still grim? Sorry. Yeah, I was looking at this.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really changed in his situation, but there's like this sort of side story, I guess you could call it, where the Spanish government is trying to investigate the fact that the U.S. government tried to made very clear plans to assassinate Assange, and they're the ones who are still able to possibly extradite him.
I thought we didn't assassinate people anymore.
Full of jokes.
Didn't we stop after the Bay of Pigs?
No.
I thought all the pigs rose up and said, don't assassinate people. And we were just like, okay, pigs, you're right.
Yeah, that's what the Bay of Pigs was.
I know all about history.
Yes, when the pigs rose from the ocean and had a nice long sit down with the ruling class of the United States. What, right before or after JFK was killed? I can't remember.
Oh, well, I mean, JFK was a sacrifice to the pigs.
To
keep them back, to keep them in the ocean where they belong.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Duh. I know that.
Pigs from the deep. I mean, Lovecraft warned us about them.
Is that true?
If you could get through his, his dense anarchist literature that's about hating people.
Racist tirades about
that menagerie.
Squid gods. I don't really know much about Lovecraft. I've never read Lovecraft.
He uses big words to look smart.
Cool. Does he use
the opposite of me? I use small words to emphasize my lack of intelligence. And by emphasize, I mean highlight. And by highlight, I mean nothing. By nothing, I mean, look, I clearly have a lack of intelligence. There is no squid monster living inside my heart.
I feel like we've gone on a real loop-de-loop journey here in the last minute.
Yeah, sorry, gang.
No, I'm picturing, surreal pig uprisings and squids inside your heart and so on now.
But what is going on in the Spanish investigation? Were they trying to free Assange from from being, I guess, sent to America?
Well, they're just trying to show that that the U.S. is using grossly illegal tactics to extradite Assange, and there have been various requests made. So, reading from this article here, or this article actually is quoting another article from Michael Isikoff, the guy one of the people who wrote the sort of long Yahoo News article about the assassination plans, the CIA assassination plans on Assange. And he said, since June of last year, Spanish judges have sent 3 requests for information to the Justice Department, primarily seeking information about the ownership of IP addresses believed to be in the United States that had access to files documenting Assange's activities while he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. All of those requests had been ignored by the Justice Department, despite an agreement between Spain and the U.S. for mutual assistance in criminal investigations. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll mutually assist each other when you're not investigating us. So
Spain clearly doesn't understand how a protection racket works.
Yeah.
They make an agreement that we will continue to protect their interest as long as it's in our interest.
I mean, so the new piece of information basically at the center of all this is that it's very clear that the U.S. government, via the CIA, was illegally surveilling Assange while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, listening to his, discussions with his lawyers and everything, just fucking spying on him, which is completely illegal. And there's other, we've been kind of having an ongoing update about this Assange situation. And I think part of the story we didn't ever really bring up was how he was actually arrested from the embassy, the Ecuadorian embassy, to begin with. And it essentially came down to the U.S. just sort of leveraging the president of Ecuador, and through they were trying to get some kind of contract with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And also the other part that's kind of hilarious is that the president of Ecuador, I think his name, I don't have it right in front of me. In any case, whoever he was at the time, basically WikiLeaks had published compromising information on him, and it wasn't out of a personal vendetta. It was just what WikiLeaks does, is when they get information that they've vetted to be, accurate, they publish it. And it just so happens that this president of Ecuador happened to be caught up in a scandal. And so it was in part like a petty revenge against Assange, because there's some quotes from that president just basically like calling Assange like a dirty, filthy hacker and stuff like that, which he's not a fucking hacker. It's like one of the big misperceptions. Like, I don't think he really knows his way around a computer that well, to be honest. He's just, he publishes stuff. But that was so the Ecuadorian government just basically said, okay, American officials, or sorry, not American, UK officials, you can just walk into the embassy and take this guy now. That's fine. And yeah, so I mean, just everything about the whole like last 10, 12-ish years, maybe even a little longer, about Assange has been just like a series of injustices. And like I said, like even before he was in prison, like it was pretty unjust what was going on with him. But at least he was like, I guess technically free, although he couldn't leave the embassy. So he's essentially been locked in a small room of varying degrees of comfort since, what was it, 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
And I was looking a little more into like what is he technically still being held under in England right now? And it's all they have him on is a petty offense. Let's see, this is why I need that highlighter extension. It's basically him like, it's something about bail, basically, but it's like something that you would never be held in prison for, like normally. And the reason he's remained in prison, because he's actually served his sentence for that already. He was sentenced to 50 months?
50 weeks.
But then he was told he would have to serve half of that, and that was in 2019. It's been well over 25 months.
25 weeks.
Since 2019. And the reason he has continued to rot in prison and be tortured is simply because of the U.S. appeals process. Like, that is the one reason. Like, if the U.S. just dropped this appeal thing, he would be let out of jail at this point. Although he could, I guess, be extradited to Sweden, because the Swedish government is also working against him. Although, anyway, it's a very complicated matter, like the whole story, and I'm sure we'll get into more of it later, because actually the decision about whether he's going to be extradited or not should be coming like any day now. They say early December. The decision will be made, so maybe I can have a little more. I'll have a few more facts ready then. But I guess just one more thing about Assange to remember as well is that how the FBI basically coerced that fucked up Icelandic guy who was like a convicted pedophile. They basically said that they would drop these various like charges against him if he cooperated, quote unquote, which means like, tell us what we want to hear about Assange. And so he did. And then like soon after, he recanted the whole thing. It was like, yeah, none of that happened. Like, Assange didn't send me any documents, he didn't ask me for any documents. There was no like illegal transfer of like classified information. I just said that because I didn't want to go to jail and the FBI was threatening me. But nothing has come of that either, because I mean, who's really going to bring the hammer down on the U.S. at this point? Like, I don't know, China maybe, if they cared, which they
don't think they
don't.
They don't,
or they not enough to. Yeah. Anyway, it's still a pretty shitty situation, and I'm kind of just bracing myself for the worst news when it comes to him being extradited. I have a sneaking suspicion that suddenly the judge is going to have a change of heart, unlike the last time around where they said, no, the U.S. can't take him because they're going to put him in an even worse style of prison than the one we have him in here in England, and he'll kill himself because of that. Anyway, we've gone over that before. No need to repeat it all. But let's see. I think there's something a little more lighthearted next on the roster here.
Here in Turkey?
Yeah, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. A missing man. I guess a man wandered away from his friends while drunk. They were hanging out in the woods or whatever. Which is, I mean, I understand this. I like to wander away from my friends too. To go find real friends.
Just anytime, sober, drunk, whatever.
Drunk. Yeah. Just a wandering man. Anyways, this guy, Behan Mutlu, was lost, and his friends got worried and, called for help. It's like they organized a search party because their friend had literally, disappeared. And I guess sometime during the search party, he joined his own search party and started looking for the missing person.
And then when the search party people started yelling out his name, he just said, "I am here."
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a short but sweet article, and it's just fucking funny. I mean, I laughed hard just when I saw the headline. It says, Turkey, missing, quote unquote, missing man joins search party looking for himself. He was just trying to find himself, guys. It's like a drink, wander, love situation.
It's nice that he found himself in the end.
He
I
did,
hope I can do that one day too.
I kind of wish that the article went more into people's reactions to when they suddenly realized he was in the search party, but it just ends kind of right there. It also says it was unclear whether he faced any penalty, which also made me think about what the laws are on the books in Turkey about alcohol. Maybe Turkey has secularized enough to where booze is fairly unregulated, but
I don't really know.
I actually was recently researching Turkey briefly because when I was getting my flights together for going to the US, I was looking for the cheapest possible ones, of course, and one of them involved having a 9-hour layover in Istanbul on the way back to Seoul. And I was like, all right, that would kind of suck because that would mean it would take me 35 hours from San Francisco to Seoul. But so I started looking up can you leave the airport and see the city center of Istanbul in and up with that much time on a layover. And apparently it's possible. There's even tour tour companies that do quote unquote layover tours, these fast paced tours of okay, here's the famous blue mosque, here's this, here's that, here's this marketplace. But anyway, I ultimately didn't end up getting that ticket because I realized with coronavirus, it would probably be impossible to do everything I needed to do. And it would probably make it a lot harder to get back into Seoul if I was I was just hanging out in Turkey for a few hours. Yeah. But, anyway, so instead I get to hang out in the Vancouver airport for 3 hours instead. totally equivalent experience.
It's not the worst airport I've been in.
Never been there. I'm
It's not.
sure it's all right.
Actually, the worst airport's the O'Hare, in my opinion. But
I
don't know how to say.
We've agreed about this like on the record before. I remember because I find O'Hare very depressing. I guess Midway is worse, but that's just the smaller version of O'Hare.
Never been there, so
Most people
can't
haven't.
speak to it.
It's like the runoff airport of Chicago. But
like
but
Incheon.
the whole reason I brought that up was because in one of the descriptions of like the fast-paced tour, it was like, then have a nice cold beer at this restaurant or whatever, this bar. And I was like, oh, like maybe I was just kind of ignorantly thinking about like Muslim majority countries, like oftentimes, alcohol is not legal, or sometimes it's like weirdly only legal for like foreigners and tourists. But anyway, that's just what popped into my head when I was also reading about this drunk Turkish man finding himself in his own search party. I digress. People should say, speaking of digressions, people should say, I have digressed, shouldn't they? Shouldn't it be past tense?
I don't know.
It sounds weird.
I get what you're saying.
It sounds weirder, though, to say it that way. And I mean, I get how it... Anyway, whatever. I'm just... I'm meta-digressing here because it's amusing to me. But how about we talk about the artificiality of time, how we became weekly. There's this article on this website that you brought to my attention, I guess like a week or two ago, maybe. See, again, I can't keep track of time. Aeon.com. I've started getting their daily updates, and this one came into my inbox here. And it's just basically about how the history of the 7-day week, and how, I mean, of course, it's not like, I'm not trying to be like, wow, man, really think about it. Doesn't it blow your mind that like there's no such like Monday is just a concept, man. But it is, and it's kind of interesting to see like the history of it and how people like it's not even that old really. Like it's like a fairly relatively, at least in the history of humanity, kind of a new thing that's just so like deeply ingrained in our minds. But so many people have been noticing this phenomenon of like since COVID began, of like just the sense of time just really being warped. I know I probably talk about it a lot. Because for me, it's been, I mean, since July, it's been especially warped. But that's because I've been jobless, and but I kind of am. But I remember like but I was working like for a good chunk of the COVID times, and even with a job and having. Although actually I worked on Saturdays too, which didn't help matters because like, I don't know. But anyway, I had a rhythm of, yeah. I rarely was like, oh, what day of the week is it? Like, yeah. Now actually probably one of the things like keeping that sense of the week in order for me is recording the podcast twice a week. It's like, this is the first podcast of the week. It's either It's either Monday or Tuesday. I know that. But anyway, I don't know. Did you find anything interesting about this article?
No, I found it interesting. I hadn't really thought about it very much, to be honest with you. I was reading most of it this morning, and I don't know. I'm trying to. we need the week, right? But the week is just a tool to make us, I don't know. Sorry.
I mean, I feel like
I've lost my train of thought here. What am I trying to say?
I feel like once you establish, once you establish it, like it would be hard to move away from. Like if we decided like, let's just subtract 2 days and let's have a 5-day week. Like that would just like throw off like people would be so fucked up about that. Like, I mean,
never happening.
You'd also have to have basically a globalized like agreement and like, yeah, there's no advantage to changing it at this point, but like, so it's probably never really going away. But it talks about how like other cultures, like up until not even that long ago, like sort of indigenous people, the Tiv people of Nigeria, until fairly recently had a 5-day week, and I don't know how to pronounce their word for it, but the word basically translates to market, which is kind of interesting. But basically, the 7-day week, it did have to like kind of conquer the world, like slowly but surely, I guess. And according to this article, let's see, it says here, instead of giving way to the rational demands of capitalism or communism, the unbroken and coordinated weekly calendar proceeded to conquer the world during the 20th century, regulating life in societies and regions that had never tracked time in 7-day units. For much of its long history, the 7-day week spread along paths of conquest, trade, and proselytization forged by Islam and especially Christianity. Muslim and Christian expansion from the Eastern Mediterranean brought the 7-day cycle as we know it to much of the world, sometime over the course of the second millennium. But only toward the very end of that millennium did the week come to enjoy its current presumption of universal legibility. So, I mean, another way to put that is like, yeah, it took some time for everyone to just
Man, I thought there was always
get
a
used
week.
to it.
I thought God laid it out in the book of Genesis when he was like, on the first day I created something, and on the second day I created. I don't remember what he created on different days.
No, you're right. Yeah, the 7th day of rest. Yeah. I almost want to say like I could imagine that being like inserted into that text like way later on, but let's say it wasn't. Let's say it was there from. Let's say God exists and he actually wrote that book. So even
we know he wrote the book,
right,
with his giant hand.
Well, that's why it says like here that it was Muslim and Christian like imperialism, basically like expansion, as they say here, that brought the 7-day concept to like the rest of the world. So yeah, it does have its roots probably in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament there. I mean, it basically says that a lot of its necessity does come from modern work practices and like industrialization. It says here that in terms of industrialization, it says by hardening and patrolling the boundaries between labor time and leisure time, industrial production highlighted the one calendar unit that most clearly and legibly fit the contours of its map. But the industrial logic of the week blurs distinctions among weekdays that have turned out to be crucial to the week's power as a temporal anchor. And this author is going against your style of speaking, aren't they?
I mean, I don't know. I just saw words with multiple syllables. I'm against that.
It's all just It's all just white noise.
Gobbledygoosh, as they call it.
Gobbledygoosh.
Gobbledygoosh.
Nobody says goosh. Anyway.
Gobbly vomit.
Gobbledygook. Gook.
Gook? It's not goosh?
I've never heard goosh in my life.
Fuck. Can't get anything right.
Maybe it's a regional thing.
No, it's probably not, man.
Well, like some people say scooch, like scooch over, and I always thought when I first heard that was from like a friend in elementary school whose family was from Texas, and I thought that was like, it was funny to my like little Wisconsin brain, where we would say scoot, like you scoot over, but they'd be like scooch. And I thought that was, so maybe it's like scoot and scooch, gobbledygook, gobbledygoosh. We'll find out. Write in if you know, listener. But let's just finish up here. For modern weak people, it is the differentiated weekly schedule of appointed activities: classes, meetings, spectator sports, broadcast entertainment, custody arrangements. They just throw that in there. That's kind of a curveball. Rather than Sabbath observance or simply waiting for the weekend that makes knowing one's precise place in the weekly cycle at all times so indispensable. So it's saying that it's not even just dividing like the weekend from the work week, but obviously like, yeah, I mean, these are all kind of like sort of obvious things, but things that I guess just people you don't think about much like on a normal with normal frequency. But yeah, I don't know, this is like a weirdly kind of overly long article, but it makes some pretty interesting points, I guess. I'll just read the last paragraph here
about Tuesday.
Yeah. The modern Tuesday is, in some profound ways, a social experiment. But whether it failed or whether it always will be is less certain. Complaints of temporal disorientation during the COVID-19 pandemic suggested both that the week is a fragile construct and that the mental habits that have formed around its artificial rhythms are hard to shake and painful to lose. Even after decades of exposure to the demands of 24/7 capitalism and its new media enablers, we felt unmoored by the sudden fuzziness of our Tuesdays. The loosening of our grip on the week and its grip on us during the shutdown raised the specter of lost memory and lost time. That specter, like the social habits that keep it at bay, is part of the modern experience. I don't quite understand why Tuesday is such an experiment, though.
I think they could have just chose any day, really, as the experiment day.
Yeah.
Tuesday is kind of an insignificant day, though. Like, it's not the beginning of the week. It's not the middle of the week.
It is Tuesday right now as well, where we are. Oh, I see. That okay. It was the previous paragraph. They were just reacting to basically some joke somebody made. But this was before COVID as well. It was in 2018 on Twitter. Somebody wrote, "Just remember, Tuesday has always been a grand yet failed social experiment and always will be." Anyway, the other big point of this article is that people aren't really necessarily getting this sort of warped feeling of time when it comes to like months.
Josh, 1 second. Someone's at my door.
Yeah, go ahead.
See what this is. I'm back. There's a package I don't remember ordering. But I guess I did. Some book. I must have ordered a book.
Cool.
Didn't open the package. Felt like a book. Coupon guy said, "Here's your package. My name's on it." Did I order something while I was drunk? We'll find out later.
Stay tuned. Yeah. Anyway, we can move beyond this. I mean, the whole point is basically that COVID has really messed with
Fucked with
people's
time.
sense of time, but like their claim is most specifically it's fucked with the 7-day week.
I think it fucked with the people who went to remote work more than others.
They bring that up in the article, and they say that explanation seems inadequate. Telecommuting, after all, had become common long before the. I mean, I agree with you, but here's what they're saying: telecommuting, after all, had become common long before the pandemic, without producing such a broad sense of temporal disorientation. Moreover, working from home.
It wasn't as common as it was. Sorry. Go ahead.
Working from home unsettles time divisions within the day even more dramatically than it unsettles the weekly cycle, I guess. I
mean, I imagine the only people it fucked with then were the people who decided not to go out. So they it changed their general routine, especially if they were the type who, went out drinking with their friends on Friday and Saturday night or something. I used to do that.
Yeah, I think even if you're going to work the same amount, like I don't know, like that's kind of why I found this article.
I find it interesting. I found during COVID that everything is like felt mashed together in an odd way.
Yeah, I wish I had a better.
So part of me is like
explanation
just like
for why.
Being trapped into one event that just never goes away, and I'm used to like events like being shorter. It's like a really long-term thing, and I don't think that's like something we generally deal with.
Well, and you have to like
I mean, not counting things like climate change, but
I mean, the other thing that COVID has done, most industrialized countries have not truly locked down. This is, a point we make all the time. But like, even if you're not truly locked down, there still is this sense that like we're like normal life is like totally limited and shifted around. Like, you can't just be like,
it's hard for me to imagine.
Let's go, like, all like meet friends for dinner or something. It's like, like how many, at least here in Korea, for example, like in Seoul, it's like, oh wait,
6,
what is the maximum number of people that can like eat together at a time now?
It's currently 6, but it's changed.
It used to be 2 like a month ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like it changes a lot, and you even just the fact of like, putting on the mask every time you walk out of the house.
It's hard for me to imagine what it was like. I mean, like, it's been long enough now to where I kind of forget what it was like beforehand, which sounds kind of dumb as I say it, because obviously I haven't forgotten, but it's...
No, but I know
it's very removed. Like, it's hard for me to imagine ever getting back to that.
I know what you mean. Like, there have been times where where I'm just like going to the store, like, like 2 minutes away from my house, and I'll walk outside and I'll be like, something feels wrong. Oh fuck, I forgot to put on my mask, and I have to
I've done that a couple of times.
Run back into the house and grab it, and I feel like weirdly like embarrassed and naked when I'm like standing outside without it on, which I know is like not the case for a lot of people, say in the US, which is
I ride my.
It's going to be an interesting experience for when I'm there. Is all I was going to say, because I think I'm going to feel like
reverse culture shock.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel like the weird person. I'm guessing.
Speaking of your newsletter, I think you brought up if there's a word for culture shock in your home country, it's reversed culture shock.
Yeah, I figured it was probably reverse culture shock. I just wondered if that. I mean, it's just the opposite. Yeah, I guess. I feel like it should be like. Anyway, I thought maybe like there could be a word that's like specific to yours, but I guess that's what the reverse part is then.
Yeah.
I wanted to say like self-culture shock or something, but I don't know.
That's something I've been experiencing most of my life.
Cultural onanism shock. Let's make it too complicated. Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about how like even going home once a year feels weird, right? Like it'll be like 2+ years since I've been back in the US for me. Anyway, we should move on to the next thing, which is the article you found.
The escalating cost of being single in America. I feel like I see articles like this pretty often, actually. This is a Vox article. I kind of liked this one. We don't have to go super into it, but basically...
It is another shockingly long article as well.
Yeah, the world's not completely set up for being single, especially in America, but I'd say that extends to other countries. I don't think South Korea is set up for being single either, which is really my only 2 points of references as far as places I've lived. Things are expensive if you're single. Like trying to have your own apartment when you're single, that was like a dream that is like so out of reach. I don't think I could afford it if I went back to America, you know? Like apartments are so expensive. I do live by myself here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Groceries are more expensive. They're kind of designed for a household, not for a single person. Just a lot of like how things are set up or not set up for single people. And maybe that should change. Maybe there should be more assistance for being single. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's also it's harder for single women. Imagine that. It's not really surprising.
It's sort of like it's kind of hard. I don't know if it's like things have gotten worse economically and that's what's caused people to stay single longer and to not have kids, or like the way that let's just say the ruling class would actually want you to believe is that it's because people are just choosing to godlessly not get married and have children like they're supposed to. That's the reason, like, like cost of living has gone up, or the reason people can't like get ahead or stay afloat. But I think it's probably the other way around. Because, you know, that graph that people like to always talk about, including us, that shows, you know, how productivity has skyrocketed since the 70s, while wages have stagnated since then as well, basically flatlined. I mean, of course people aren't going to get married and have kids like as frequently as they used to. So it's more like...
Well, it's also just literally more expensive to be single. Like the way the taxes work out, the breaks you get from the tax breaks you get, the benefits that you get if you're working a full-time job at a company are usually much better if you're married. So it's like just more expensive to be single in America. There's an article from Lisa Arnold and Christina Campbell that's mentioned in this article that a unmarried woman making $40,000 in 2010 could pay almost $500,000 more over her lifetime than a married woman, and an unmarried woman making $80,000 could pay more than $1 million. That's like a very they say it's a very expensive life choice, and that's just from being single, and that's for like taxes, mortgages, and other things that they would have more benefits for by being married. And like the marriage and gender income cap, married men are at the top making the most like income. But then next is married women who actually eke out single men on the income graph. So just being single puts you at a disadvantage, even if you're making like the same amount of money as your married friend. Which, I mean, as someone who I do like the idea of taxes, I think people should pay taxes. I'm just like, also think that it shouldn't be harder to be single. You shouldn't be forced into marriage to make things easier for yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, paying taxes is all fine and good if you have a living wage and not a starvation wage. I mean, that what I'm getting at is the problem is just that wages are completely beneath where they should be, just across the board. Well, until you hit like the top, 10% of earners or whatever in America, where people are, absurdly overpaid. But I don't know. To me, I think that that's just like the ultimate culprit here, because and of course, like a married household is like, that's what I was getting at, is just that, you double, both parents are
but
working.
This article is saying that a single income married household will still be doing better than a single person because of policy. And one of the problems is like a case of policy drift, where a lot of the policies is written for like married people, and that there are a lot of policies that help married people, like safety nets were written in like the 1950s, and there's not really been any change to these policies to modern times, where there are more just like single people trying to get by on their own, and the policies do not help them out.
You mean a household that has a married couple where only one person's working?
Yes, they will still be doing better than the single person.
Well, yeah, like you were saying, like the various tax breaks and benefits and whatnot. Yeah, which was like, I mean, that was obviously like a huge part of why like gay marriage was such a important step forward. Obviously, because they were like beyond just the acknowledgement of like gay people as equal human beings, is like just the material benefits that come along with being able to get married. But I see what yeah.
So like, I mean, the big argument for this, we're at near the end of this article, what the author seems to be arguing for is a better social safety net for single people. Something that at least matches what married people have, but perhaps just something just is better for all Americans, which, I also want better social safety nets, because, well, I'm into that. I think people shouldn't have to work so hard.
I mean, I would just say you could make us, instead of like all of the hoops and means testing and shit that would come with like, and I'm all for social safety nets, of course, but a much easier fix would just be a federal minimum wage of like $25 an hour. The end. Like that would change everying. And maybe,
I don't disagree. It would, but also there's part of me that would take other things like paying off people's student loans first. But that's a selfish thing. I do know that that's one of the problems.
Well, yeah, I mean,
housing, the way housing loans work, I think you get better housing loans if you're married. Like for your first like mortgage or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's no like one magic bullet fix. I do
want everyone to be paid more.
When I look at this sort of inequality here between single and married people, I feel like if single people were earning at least $25 an hour, I think a lot of those problems would disappear, even if it's not necessarily fair.
Maybe, but part of what's like, what I guess the policy drift problem is the fact that like even the person making $80,000 a year and being single is somehow they're having to spend more of their money than the married person because of I don't know. Married people have it easier. That's fine. It's expensive to live. It sucks.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be. I guess that's, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm like saying the most obvious shit right now. Just pay people a commiserate wage with inflation and with the increase in productivity over the last 50 some years, and maybe things would be a little more idealized, like that great time in the 50s and 60s when a plumber could send their kids to fucking Harvard or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be nice to, like, I think that it's really, like, easier to fall through the cracks in the States if you are single, especially if you're older and single, because you might not have, like, the support systems that a married person will have, especially if you decide not to have children, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not, like, this nice support net. And I think there needs to be more community building and also just more programs out there to help people that end up alone.
Yeah.
Anywho.
And they do bring up in the article just the like the social stigma as well of being single, like past a certain age or whatever. It gives some examples of where it's okay or it's like generally considered acceptable, but those positions are really hard to get to. Now I completely lost the place where it was, but it says here, the celebrated single life is in truth incredibly narrow. For women, you have to be 1, actively and successfully in search of partnership, 2, unspeakably wealthy and above scrutiny, and or 3, a self-sacrificing mother. Confirmed, quote unquote, confirmed bachelors can sometimes get a pass so long as they don't move back in with their parents. So do the elderly, the widowed, but only for a brief window of time, and the very young. Other single and solo living people are still stigmatized in various and overlapping ways, depending on age, class, race, sexual identity. We don't call single or unmarried people spinsters, deviants, or social problems anymore, at least not explicitly. But that underlying hostility to single and solo living people, it's everywhere.
I call myself all those things, to be honest with you.
You spinster, deviant, social problem.
I have been in a long-term relationship.
Yes.
But still, I am a spinster and deviant, and, definitely those two things.
Deviant spinster. Oh, very, very quickly, I just wanted to talk about the Great Resignation, as it's called. So I guess people are quitting their jobs in record numbers right now. This, I want to say it was in September, 4.4 million people quit their jobs. And not to put too fine a point on it, but people are just really, and this is something we talked about before, like, and if you combine this with some of the rise in like labor strikes going on, there's really like a kind of a shift in consciousness going on. When it comes to people basically not willing to take like being just like basely exploited. One of the examples I saw in one article was like a woman who was she was like a preschool teacher, and like she just basically was like, I'm tired of being like just treated like shit and paid like basically nothing, and no decent benefits. And like a preschool teacher honestly seems like, a million times better of a job than today working at McDonald's. But still, most of the people that are quitting their jobs though are in the lower social caste, we'll say. It's not just people who can comfortably quit their jobs, Basically what she said though in the interview, it was a video, like news segment. She didn't specify what she was doing, but she just said like, there are lots of other ways to make money nowadays. Like basically like, and like that could also be a bad thing though, if people are quitting their kind of 9-to-5 shit jobs for the quote unquote freedom of like gig work jobs, like, I don't know, driving an Uber or something. 'Cause those jobs are like equally pretty like, exploitative, especially since that, Prop 22 passed in California. Yeah. Which basically allows like, companies like Uber, Lyft, whatever, Grubhub, etc. to, I guess the whole point of that was just like, every employee just becomes like an independent contractor, and therefore they have like zero stability or benefits, and can be fired without cause and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's not necessarily just a capital G good thing that people are all quitting their jobs, but I feel like it's also it is a good sign that people are sort of stepping outside of the peasant mindset and just saying, like, you know, you can't fire me because I quit. Fuck you. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find something else. And one of the stats I saw too is that, like, there's something like 10 point something million job openings right now, but like,
yeah, it's apparently one of the best times to go look for jobs in America, except for they're all minimum wage jobs.
Exactly. And so, like, the fact that at the same time that there's more jobs like available than ever, more people than ever are quitting their jobs. I mean, to me, it just signals that there's like
that America corporations are going to embrace immigration soon to hire cheap labor who will appreciate jobs.
Yeah, I mean, they're already there,
and roll up the people who won't take their crap jobs into the old hateful drumbeat of, oh God, people are coming and stealing our jobs now. We wanted those. We just didn't want them then. Now we want them. Now that they're not there.
I mean, that was already a huge thing anyway, but like they can only do that with like so many kinds of jobs. Like you can't hire like a migrant that can barely or not at all like speak English to do like a telemarketing job, for example. But yes, I mean, the people that are going to keep working in the fucking fields and, you know, scrubbing toilets. Yeah. Those jobs have already been covered by, abused migrants. But that just reminds me that, the Biden administration has just officially continued the Trump administration's Title 42. I don't even know what to call it. Code, law. Yeah, I guess it's considered a United States code, and it just allows like the very, very, very quick expulsion of migrants. And it was supposedly begun under the guise of, you know, keeping coronavirus out of the U.S., which is a fucking hilarious joke considering how riddled with coronavirus the country is anyway. But the funny thing I saw today, the second funny thing I saw from Jen Psaki today, was she was being slightly grilled about that fact, that the Title 42 thing. And she got all fucking indignant and pissed off. She was like, this is in no way a continuation of the things that Donald Trump was doing. And by the way, if Donald Trump had actually handled COVID better, but we wouldn't even be having to deal with this. And but this is by no means the same thing that Donald Trump did. It's like, it's literally the same exact law, and you're using it for the same exact reasons that the Trump administration said they were using it. It's she's like, it's a matter of health and safety. We're not, but anyway, I just wonder how that's going to mesh with the need for cheap immigrant labor. But anyway,
yeah, me too.
So yeah, people quitting their jobs in record numbers. It's just been going up to, like, the month before it was 4.3 million, then 4.4, and it doesn't look like it's going to be like slowing down anytime soon either. At least it's what the articles tell me. Let's see. Wow. These last couple of things are pretty fucking dark. I'll just all right. So who likes the CIA? Raise your hand. Did you raise your hand? Okay. Well, there's a recent documents, like a huge just raft of documents came out, and part of what was discovered in these documents was that the CIA knew that they had like pedophiles working within the agency and did nothing to prosecute them or punish them. Basically, they were fired from their positions, it looks like, at least some of them. There's a very long, in-depth BuzzFeed news article, and it also has the entire like 3,700 page CIA Inspector General report from 2016 that they're getting all the information from, like embedded in the article if you really want to flip through it. But essentially, one of the CIA agents, it was discovered that he had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. His only consequence was that he was fired from the CIA. But basically, the big takeaway is that the CIA agents can basically do whatever the fuck they want. Like you can have it on record that you molested a 2-year-old and just get away with it if you're in the CIA. And there are like multiple other agents, it said that they were purchasing child pornography, and that guy just resigned. He wasn't even fired. The Justice Department just basically like refuses to do anything with these people because, and the rationale is always, well, it could expose important secrets.
Yeah.
Important intelligence agency secrets if we punish these pedophiles for being pedophiles. And it's just, I don't know. The CIA is becoming like one of my least favorite agencies there is, because it just seems like they're kind of bulletproof, and this is just a greater illustration of that fact.
They'll get away with everything, forever.
Even within the government, they're like privileged. Like even amongst the privileged, they're like the privileged amongst the privileged. Like if like a congressperson was found to have molested a 2-year-old, and it was a clear cut case like that, I'm pretty sure they would face some prosecution. But that's because I guess they're a little bit more of a public face, obviously, than a spook in the CIA is. But just this whole ability to be able to hide behind like state secrets. Don't mess with us. State secrets. It's like they just have a gun to everybody's head, basically. And it's sickening and horrible. And if you don't take my word for it, click on the link in our show description. So I'll just leave that there. Okay, here's a slightly more
look, these people can't testify because they might inadvertently be forced to disclose sources and methods of the CIA. So, I mean, we couldn't have that.
Yeah, even though like so many documents, so much, we already know so much about how the CIA operates from like declassified materials, like this huge dump that just came out now. But yeah, I mean, I know you're having a laugh. It's like, hey, if I explain to you how I procured child pornography from the internet, that might blow the cover of one of our brave agents who's also just like molesting children in Thailand or whatever. Yeah, it's fucking all horrible and gross. And I mean, do we really need the CIA? That's a question I often ask myself these days. But that's probably for another day, because we gotta build a bridge to the next topic. It's real. This is a real roller coaster of an episode today. I feel like.
How do these living bridges work? I actually was reading this right before we started, and I finished reading it basically right before I hopped on with you, and somehow, even though it was the most recent thing I read, it's the one that is completely just slip and slid out of my mind.
So, I mean, the basic idea here is that in India, for hundreds of years, maybe longer, it says indigenous groups in northeast India have crafted intricate bridges from living fig trees. Now, this ancient skill is making its way to European cities. And I just thought this was a cool little thing that I had never heard of. And, it is, it's obviously more environmentally friendly than maybe using anything else to make a bridge. And obviously these bridges are not made, to hold the weight of an automobile or some shit. It's a footbridge for people, but still you need those. And, yeah, the pictures are really cool as well. But yeah, they basically just they grow the roots from these trees. And this is something that takes a long time. Obviously, this is over lifetimes until they become the sort of finalized product of a bridge with side rails or whatever on it, handrails, I should say. But yeah, it's something that people they grow these things over generations basically. And but now people in Europe are basically trying to they're using all their fancy computers and shit to figure out how to do it themselves. And they have to use a different species of tree, but I guess they're doing it, I forget where now, somewhere in Europe. I guess saying Europe is good enough. But yeah, I don't know. That's basically all there is to it. It's just, it's a cool thing that I had no idea existed. And if you look at one of the pictures where there's it's two bridges going over this small river, and one is basically on top of the other, and they're both just growing off of this tree and connected to the other side likewise. And yeah, they unlike concrete, they don't absorb heat the same way. So it is I mean, it's probably slightly above not using plastic straws, but slightly below other forms of environmentalism. But that's not really even the reason they made these things to begin with. They just realized, hey, we can use these trees that already exist without cutting them down and using their wood to build a thing that's necessary, like a bridge. But don't believe me? Check out the link in the show notes. The ingenious living bridges of India.
Sound cool.
I guess one final thing is what? Go ahead.
The committee adoption of the combating glorification of Nazi votes. That one.
Yeah. So I watched I recommend if people want to get a succinct, although it is nearly half an hour long, but there's a video from the Gray Zone from Ben Norton, a guy I really like a lot. Paying attention to these days. He's a writer, but he also does podcasts and show on YouTube. So that here's the overview as written by him. The United States has been the only country on earth to consistently vote against a UN resolution condemning the glorification of Nazism and racism since it was first introduced in 2013.
Because we love freedom of speech.
U.S. allies, Canada and Ukraine, have at times joined, but Washington stands alone in defense of fascism. So the U.S. is the only country that has, every year that this has been introduced, voted against it. Now, to be fair, a decent number of the majority of countries vote for it. Then second to that, a good chunk of countries abstain from voting, which, just like in Congress, I think should not be an option. Shouldn't you have to vote just yes or no on resolutions, or am I missing something here? As abstaining just seems like such a fucking cop out. Anyway, the point is that, like, and some people might say, oh, whatever, it's just the UN, like their resolutions don't even really like amount to anything. But like, I mean, this one is basically, it would be symbolic, but it's like, if the US can't even vote to condemn Nazism, like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this country. And
I mean, but isn't this vote to condemn other people's right to speak about why they like Nazism, and aren't we all about freedom of speech? I mean, you think people should even be free to say whatever they want on platforms that are not public, like Twitter.
No, that's not their reason. Their reason is that they think...
That's what it says in this, the usmission.gov thing, though. It says, the United States Supreme Court has consistently affirmed the constitutional right to freedom of speech and the rights of peaceful assembly and association, including by avowed Nazis whose hatred and xenophobia are vile and widely scorned by the American people. We nevertheless firmly defend the constitutional rights of those who exercise their fundamental freedoms to combat intolerance and express strong opposition
look at the next paragraph, though. It's about hating Russia. They think that this is a Russian op. They think that this is Russian propaganda because it's distorting the Soviet narrative of European history, and it's saying that no, because there's nothing in this resolution that is talking about criminalizing speech. There's nothing about that. Like, and also
combating glorification of Nazism isn't, I mean, like, glorification is speech, for better or worse. I'm not saying that I don't think people should be able to glorify it, but I don't know. The United States does have a hard on for freedom of speech.
But it's not saying, but the resolution doesn't say, because the resolution, it's like I said, it's more a symbolic thing. It's not saying that every country that affirms this needs to outlaw all forms of pro-Nazi speech or anything like that. And here's the thing, is Germany already has laws like that. And Germany, this most recent year, abstained from voting on this. Like, even Germany couldn't bring itself to condemn Nazism in the UN because it becomes this whole just game of politics where you have to, like, basically be on board with the United States. And actually it was the entire EU just abstained this year. I mean, I don't know. I think the bigger headline to me is that this is all a. And if you watch the video, I mean, he explains it pretty well, though, how this is largely about protecting what you could call, like, de facto colonial states like the Ukraine and like Lithuania and like these Eastern Bloc countries that have propped up Nazi collaborators, and the U.S. has backed them up on this in praising them. Like, there was recently, just in Illinois, they resurrected a statue to a Nazi collaborator just because this Nazi collaborator also happened to kill Soviet soldiers. So they're like, oh, what a great brave man who killed the Reds. It's like, yeah, but he was a Nazi. So it basically comes down to, like, sure, I guess we hate Nazis on paper and in our movies and shit, but, like, we definitely prefer Nazis over Soviet communists. And the thing is Russia is not the Soviet Union anymore, even. So this whole anti-Russian hysteria is just, I think that's what's leading to these votes. But it's also...
Well, we've been voting no since 2013, 2005? I think this says 2005, actually.
2013 is when it first started.
Well, for these reasons, the United States has voted against each new version of this resolution since 2005, according to the usmission.gov.
Okay, I didn't know there was another version, but I mean, on this particular resolution started 2013, and
Yeah, I know some of it is the fact that we do not want to give any credit to the Soviet Union. We always want them to be the bad guy. And not everything they did was good, but I do know that a lot of it is we want to make sure that narrative is kept no matter what.
But also, like, this, I mean, to me, this also leads into the problem of training literal Nazis in the Ukraine is what the United States does. I mean, the U.S. backed the coup in 2014 in Ukraine against the democratically elected. Does this sound familiar? They backed a coup that gave money and direct training and advisement to literal Nazis. Like, there is a huge Nazi contingent within the hard right ultra nationalist Ukrainian government right now, and that's their courtesy of the US of A. And it's like, and the only two countries that voted against this resolution in 2021 were shockingly the US and the Ukraine. So it's like it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. I mean, they can say they're all about freedom of speech, but as far as I know, and maybe I should have looked into this a little harder, but the resolution, a lot of UN resolutions are largely symbolic and don't really involve, like, they're not saying like every country that votes that affirms this has to then well, not even follow it. Like, I don't think there's anything in it that says make Nazism illegal. It's just saying to combat the glorification. Like, you could read that as, okay, throw Nazis in jail just for being Nazis, but I don't think that's even what it's saying. It's just saying that, like, we should officially, like, on the record as this body of countries, as the UN, say, hey, Nazism, bad, not a good thing. And the US still can't bring itself to vote in favor of it. And you're right. The first paragraph, it goes on about freedom of speech, but it says, today, however, the United States must once again express opposition to this resolution, a document most notable for its thinly veiled attempts to legitimize Russian disinformation campaigns, denigrating neighboring nations like the Ukraine, Lithuania, etc., and promoting the distorted Soviet narrative of much contemporary European history using the cynical guise of halting Nazi glorification. It's like, no one hated the Nazis more than the fucking Red Army, man. No one killed more Nazis than the Red Army either. But America loves its own narrative of what World War II was all about, which was that, you know, the brave Yankees came like swooping in and, you know, put Hitler's head on a platter and just, yeah, maybe the Soviet Union kind of helped us out here and there. No, they were like instrumental. But anyway, I have digressed. I suppose we could wrap it up there.
Yeah, that seems like a good place. By the way, I do not support Nazis. I was just arguing that.
I don't think it came across like that at all, man.
Okay. Fuck Nazis. Fuck the CIA. You know, fuck everything.
Also, fuck Black Friday. I skipped over. I was going to throw in this Black Friday thing. Maybe I'll just throw the link into the notes because we're getting further and further away from this year's Black Friday, so it's less and less relevant. But
yeah,
I found this article that's just it was on that site I was talking about the other day, ranker.com, and it just has a list of the worst Black Friday violence.
There's some shitty shit that's happened on Black Friday. Horrible stuff. And like, it really... They made an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about it.
What?
There's some Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas movie where I feel like he's falling over buying an action figure.
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an intense, dramatic portrayal of the horrors of Black Friday.
I don't know if I've ever seen it, but for some reason in my head, that movie is about Black Friday.
No, you're right. It is. Like, everyone's going insane over this. The whole I've never even seen it either, but again,
now I want to watch it all of a sudden.
I know the plot because of the Bad Movie podcast, but like, yeah, he's just trying to get this doll for his kid, and like that's like the whole plot. And Sinbad is in it. I know that. Imagine
not ordering your Christmas gifts from the internet.
Maybe we should do a commentary on that.
Maybe
for the Christmas season.
Maybe.
I think it could be funny. Anyway, like this Black Friday list of violence, like when I was scrolling down it, I was just like, my jaw kind of fell open. I was like, oh God, it just keeps going. Like I thought it would be like 5 or 10 things, but no, it's quite a bit. And it's probably not even all of it. I also found another thing that it showed which states had like the worst tendencies towards Black Friday violence, and your home state was on the top 5 worst.
That doesn't surprise me.
The absolute worst was North Carolina, I think, yeah. Anyway, recommendations.
Sure, I'll recommend another anime. I this weekend watched the entire second season of Megalobox, which I guess came out earlier this year. The first season of Megalobox maybe came out in 2016 or 17. I didn't realize they were making a second season, but it was incredible. Highly recommend it. Both seasons are really good. The first season's about a down and out person who lives in the lower class, and he's trying to figure out a way to break into the upper class, and the whole world's against him. And he does eventually break into it through being good at boxing. Second season picks up a few years later. His whole life's crumbled. He's addicted to drugs, and it's about him getting off painkillers from his boxing injuries. Probably one of the better animes I've seen in a very long time. I did not realize they'd released a second season this year. Then I was scrolling through the news, like, oh, there's a second season of Megalobox that has great reviews, and I was like, gotta watch it. And then I sat down Sunday and I was like, I'm gonna watch one episode, then go do something else. And then I watched the entire thing on my couch without moving. And yeah, that's my recommendation.
Did you have another one of your patented back and forth arguments with your couch?
It told me I couldn't
about
leave.
What to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll recommend this documentary called David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet, which is like, David Attenborough, of course, is like the famous British, I don't really know what his profession is. I imagine he's trained in some sort of biology or something, but
something like that. I just think of him as the documentary guy.
Yeah, he's been doing nature documentaries for a long time, like since the 50s or something. He's still alive, isn't he? If he is, he's probably 90 something by now. But anyway, it's him kind of running through his personal sort of biography, but intertwining it with a lot of the footage that he's narrated over throughout his career. And it shows when he was doing stuff back in the black and white days, in the 50s and 60s for the BBC. And but then it also become the running narrative alongside it is about climate disaster. And so every 10 years or so, it shows how the Earth's population has grown, and then how much CO2 per square whatever has grown, and then how much wilderness is left on the planet, and the numbers get more upsetting as it goes along. And then the very kind of final third of it, he basically he goes through what will happen if climate change is not challenged or mitigated in any way. And it's pretty bleak, but then he tries to end on a positive note by saying what actions could be taken to genuinely attenuate climate change, and at least for the foreseeable future, keep the biosphere intact. But man, the sections where he's just going like, in 2030, it will look like this. In 2040, it will look like that. By 2060, it's just like the ocean will be like a barren wasteland of salty bullshit. Just like, it's rough, but I enjoyed it. I watched it the other day. I was feeling like watching a nature documentary, and I'd heard about this one, and yeah, it's a Netflix thing. It's on Netflix, so check it out. And
check us out on the internet at
do that.
heatdeathpod.com. We are also on Twitter. We post stuff on the internet. You can message us through mail. You can text message Joshua.
Yeah.
You have his phone number. And you can add us on Cow Talk. You know. Okay. We also have a Patreon.
We have a Patreon, and we just got a new patron the other day.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but it appears this person lives in Norway, and they go by the name Tor Andre. I'm going to say Hagen.
That's what it looks like
I'm
to
going to say
me.
Hagen, not Hagen. Yeah, so thank you for your
we
patronage.
appreciate the support.
And one last shout out. Over the weekend, I got to meet a listener, Britton, who's we've read some listener mail from him before, down in Busan, which is other side of Korea from Seoul. I was down there doing some music stuff with some friends, and got to meet him, hang out for a bit, and it was fun. Cool guy. And yeah, so that was really nice too. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you later, Josh.
All right, see ya.
Together, then it starts to fly.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?